Hey everybody, welcome back to my layout. This will be a layout update for a very cold February 2019. Let's take a look at what we've been working on over the past month. So right off the bat, you probably noticed the fascia is all done. So I finished what was left from last month. All the way around the layout's done now. 1/4 inch hardboard, and I put the first coat of flat black paint on it. Really changes the look down here though. And that's just installed with 3/4 inch brad nails and polyurethane glue. I talked about it a bit last update, but basically the top edge is, so I nailed it on and I let the glue dry. The bottom edge is all level. I did that with the laser level. And the top, once the glue was dry, I ran my jigsaw along the top and just followed the contour of the terrain. This was the trickiest part. This was the end of the aisle, a reverse kind of curve here. I tried to get the 1/4 inch to fit into this little cove. Basically what I did on the top, and I had got it to work on the top, on the valance, but when I tried to do it down here, I just got too greedy and I was trying to get it real tight into these curves, and I broke the piece twice trying to do it. So I ended up just, you can't really tell, but about right here it's just 1/8. So I just did a single layer of 1/8 there and kind of cheated the edges of it out so you can't tell, and 1/8 fit into that curve no problem. It looks really good though. I'm happy with the way it turned out. It's a pretty big job. Created a lot of sawdust cutting all that hardboard up, so I'm glad to have gotten past that. And for now I'm just going to leave the first coat on it. I'm not going to bother putting the second coat on until the layout's a lot further on in construction. Just because my kids are kind of hard on it. They have little step ladders that they move around all over the place, so they're banging into it a lot. So once the layout is closer to finished, I'll go and put a second coat of flat black along it. So after I finished that, while I still had the table saw out and it was still kind of a big mess down here, I figured I should go ahead and do some of the foundation work for the stations and pretty much anywhere where the terrain needed to be built up, which ended up being quite a few places. So let's take a quick look at that. So the first place that needed the terrain built up is Lake Louise station here. And hindsight's always 20/20, but when I did just the bench work, I figured that just having the cork and track down flat on the plywood, the terrain could be the same level. And that was easy at that time, because then I just made this all one flat piece when I was doing the station. But it turns out the station needs to be like just about at the rail height. It's just the platform is just a little bit below the railhead. So the foundation under the station needs to be built up a lot. So I ended up having to put an additional half inch here of hardboard, the width of the station. So the whole station and everything, the platform will sit on top of that. So as well as the station, the maintenance away yard further down at Lake Louise there needed to be built up as well. So you can see kind of by my orange rail clippers there, I actually used a piece of 1/2 inch drywall there because it was just easier. I just had it laying around. So cut that to the shape, and then the maintenance away buildings and sheds will sit on that, and that brings them sort of more closer to the right height. So you can see here the maintenance area at Lake Louise. 1/2 inch drywall to build it up there, and then 1/4 inch hardboard. And that's just working from pictures. You look in the pictures, you can see, there isn't a whole lot of right away build up there. It's just kind of the tracks on the ground. Everything's sort of level. And so that's it for Lake Louise. I still have a little bit to do. I have to do the platform. There's a long platform that runs from the station all the way to basically ends here where the maintenance buildings start, and the platform also extends past into the curve there. So I still have to cut the hardboard for that, but I'm almost done. So moving down the line over here to Banff, I actually got quite a bit of stuff done over here. First thing I did was I airbrushed the track in the yard all the way from staging down at this end, past the road crossing here to the first divider wall. Used up quite a bit of paint. It was almost a full kind of craft size bottle to do that. And I mixed my own rail grime color and just applied it with my airbrush, pretty straightforward. Once the paint dried, I just scrape it off with a piece of wood. So in addition to painting the track at Banff, you can see a lot of the foundation work is done. So first thing I did was build up the road, which had to be built up almost ½ inch, just a little bit under. That's to install the grade crossings. So I just had some leftover particle board laying around and some 1/8 hardboard. That's what makes up the road crossings. And I work just straight off of Google Earth when I'm doing these. I've showed it before, but it's real quick to use the Google Earth measuring tape, and then you can just scale it down for what you need, and you can work quite quickly and get really accurate results using that Google Earth scale ruler. So on top of getting the road base done, I've been getting the concrete grade crossings ready, and these are just these little plastic BLMA grade crossings, the modern ones. So I use those to kind of gauge where the road needs to be, and then once I have those, I work backwards from the grade crossing pieces. You can see over on this side, there's a this isn't set up very good, it's kind of loose here. I'm still test fitting it, but there's a bicycle path on the right side of this road, so the crossing gates and everything will go in between here, and then the bike path and the road needed to be built up to the right height. I masked the inside of the BLMA grade crossings and then airbrushed them just the same grimy rail color as the track. And once I'm closer to done, I'll peel the masking tape off the center and give it the concrete kind of color that it should have. In the center of the road, it's just pavement, so I just cut a small piece custom fit to the center of the tracks there. Again, working closely off the prototype pictures and Google Earth, trying to get it as accurate as I can. Just take a second, watch this go by. Looks a lot better once the road is built up to the correct height, in my opinion. So again, just real quick about the ruler on Google Earth. Very valuable tool for modeling, and you can look at this from any angle. So the first thing I do is spin it around to the direction that I need to look at it to work with. So you can see there's the grade crossing, and you can get pretty close. And then this ruler tool is just right here, and you can have it in any unit that you want. So it's real easy to get fairly accurate measurements. Here, let's take a measurement of the grade crossing, 1400 centimeters. So it's pretty easy to scale that down, 1 divided by 87, and you have a really accurate dimension, or close enough. And I showed it in the past. I think it was going back to the very first layout update video for this layout, but I was measuring a 40-foot boxcar, and it was within 1 foot every time. So for modeling purposes, within 1 foot is more than accurate enough. You can even take a measure here from the signal to the crossing gate, 2500 centimeters. So that's great when you're doing planning and stuff too. Like, not just what I'm doing now, but if you're doing layout planning, this is an invaluable tool for layout planning. So just looking past the Mount Norqauy road crossing there and down at the station, same deal like I did over at Lake Louise. I'm building up the areas that need to be level with the track. Again, made the same mistake of making this whole area all one flat piece of plywood and then putting the track on it. What I should have done was cut along here and make that, you know, a little bit lower and raise up that plywood to where I needed it, because I did have to build up this area 1/4 of an inch in places and 1/2 an inch in other places, because you can see here, this is the this will be the station platform. Goes all the way down past there. There's a speeder shed, and here's where the station will sit. Speaking of the station, I started again using the scale measurements from the plans I have as well as Google Earth, laying out where the station's going to sit and where the eaves are going to be and everything. That way I can do the final cutouts of the station height platform, because there's a bunch of parking spaces, there's bus parking spaces and stuff here that all need to be cut out, and I want to get it to as close to realistic as I can. So the first thing I need to do is figure out where the station's going to be, and then I can take measurements from the station to the different parking spots and get it all accurate. So I started that. I've got it probably 3/4 of the way done getting the station mapped out on there, and then once the station's mapped out on here, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the parking spaces, which are here, and then the platform, which will be all the way to the end there. So that's just looking the other way. You can see over here where the speeder shed will be. This is the platform, and then this is some pavement, which will be cut tighter to the station once I get the station mapped out where it should be. And when I say I'm working off measurements, I'm literally working off measurements that I took. Like here's now I have the original station plans, but there's because I'm doing modern day, like a kind of a 2010, 2015 era. They added this baggage. I'm not exactly 100% sure what it is, but it's on the railway west end of the station. And it's this little addition that they put on sometime around the 80s, I think. So I don't have the plans for those. So actually last year when I was there, I took a bunch of measurements so that this will help a lot when I go to, because I want to put that addition on there and have a kind of a modern day representation of the station. So on top of my own measurements, like I said, I've got the original station plans, and these are from like 1910, I believe, 1920 maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But I got these from the Glenbow Archives in Calgary, if anybody else is looking for them. And they're huge. They're huge, old sepia blueprints. And I photocopied all the important stuff and kind of brought it home and pieced it together. So this is coming in really handy when I go to, like right now when I'm trying to map out the foundation of the station. They aren't the greatest quality in the world, but for what I need them for, it's good enough, because I'm just looking for, you know, basic measurements, stuff like that. And like I said, they're such huge blueprints, it's really hard to get decent quality copies of them. So that's everything new on the layout, guys. So the other thing I was working on, it's been a really long time since I worked on a locomotive project, but we're finding that we're actually power short on the layout. I don't have enough locomotives to run all the trains with you know, distributed power and stuff. So I decided I should probably dig out some of these DC locomotives that I had and get DCC into them and get them on the layout. So the first one I started working on is this SD60. This is an Athearn ready to run model that just came DC only. So I'm putting some details on it, sprucing it up a bit. I gotta have LED ditch lights, headlights, ditch lights on the rear, all LEDs all around, so it's gonna have a total of 8 LEDs on it. And then just doing some little bit of extra detailing, like I put PTC antennas on the top, a couple extra antennas that it had that didn't come stock with. It's a fun project though. I forgot how much I enjoyed working on these. This is probably one of my favorite things to do in the hobby. So I got some decoders on order, and hopefully in the next month or two I'll have a few more locomotives running. I got this one, and I got an SD90 that I'm going to do, and another CFX leaser. As far as sound goes, I'm going to try something different on this unit that I've never done. That's an iPhone 4 speaker, and I siliconed it into the shell there, and I got the opening, which is the opening on these iPhone speakers is right here. So I put it close to the open hole for the exhaust, and hopefully get a little bit more sound out of it that way. I've installed one before on a Rapido engine that was DC, and believe it or not, that's what Rapido uses for a lot of their sound, I believe, is just iPhone 4 speakers. So when I was looking at the parts list of what I had to order for this thing to put DCC and sound in it, I remembered I had an old smashed, this is my wife's phone from a long time ago, smashed beyond repair. So I, where else but YouTube, watch a quick YouTube video about how to take one of these apart, and got the speaker out of it. So that's where the speaker for this unit came from. And then because I'm going to do a couple more locomotives after this one, I actually found, pdc.ca has they sell these. So I got a package of 4 for like $6. iPhone 4 speakers. The reviews on them are pretty good. The people that have used them say they're great speakers. The sound quality is really great. So hopefully this will be something that works out really well. They're so thin, it's they're not hard to install in basically any Locomotive too. So if you got an old smashed iPhone or smartphone of a different brand laying around and it's completely useless, why not take it apart and salvage the speaker out of it, save yourself a few bucks. It's also a couple other interesting things. There's a lot of little tiny screws, like, I mean tiny, that's a screw right there. But those are useful for you know, if you're lots of different modeling when you need really small screws. So I'm gonna save all these little bits and screws and stuff. This is the motor from the vibration setting. So I think that's kind of a cool little tiny motor too. So if you wanted to in the future, I don't know, put it as a Locomotive fan or something on a function, that'd be kind of cool if you took this counterweight off it, I think. But lots of useful little parts inside this iPhone. So there's the camera. Definitely glad that I didn't throw this thing away or just toss it in the phone recycling. So that's what I've been up to this past very brutally cold month. It's been absolutely terrible here. We've had a really long run of cold weather. Snow, wind, you name it. A good excuse to stay down here in the basement and work on the trains. I hope the rest of you guys are having a really good modeling season. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.